I'm so honored to be speaking here with you today. I'm a little bit nervous too, absolutely am. While I'm used to speaking, well, not used to, I always get nervous before it happens, but I have spoken in front of much larger crowds before, but usually it has been on something that's in my area of expertise. Telling my own story is a little bit different, and that's why I'm here today, to tell you about my journey, to tell you where I started, how I ended up where I am, share some lessons that I learned along the way, and with the hope that some of those you will find inspiring and useful in your own journeys. I was born 45 years ago in a country that no longer exists. It's ironic that it doesn't exist because our slogan was brotherhood and unity. The country was called Yugoslavia, and I came from a part of the country called Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was a country where almost nobody had too much, but almost everybody had enough. I had a very easy, carefree childhood. My family vacationed every summer at the Adriatic seashore. And oftentimes I can still smell the pine cones that line the beaches and feel the hot pebbles underneath my feet. I used to ride my bike with my friends almost every day from one end of the town to the other. It was a small town, coal mining town, where everybody knew each other and almost everybody worked for the coal mine. I went to an elementary school that was just down the road from where I lived. It was named after a World War II hero, and I was one of the top students at the school. I went to physics competitions, kind of like mathletes here, but only for physics, and I won prizes. In the end of the 8th grade, which was the elementary school graduation, I won a special prize that was given only to a handful of students who had all A's in all marking periods from 1st to 8th grade. It was amazing, and I was on top of the world. And my next step was to get into this special high school that I wanted to attend. Now, high school was a little different where I grew up, quite different than it is here. Most of the high schools were what you would call vocational high schools. So you finish a high school and you have an occupation. Maybe you're an electrician or a nurse or a dental technician. The high school that I wanted to attend took only the best students. And it was more like a college prep high school. You could go to any university you wanted to when you finished it. But it also had an entrance exam. While I could get to any other high school just based on my grades, I had to take a 3-part entrance exam and score high enough to be admitted to this high school. But that didn't stop me. It also didn't stop me that this high school was in the next city over and that I would have to take a city bus for 1 hour in the morning to get there and 1 hour back to come back home. So imagine if you had to drive to Syracuse every day on a city bus, not really comfortable, super crowded, just to get to school and then to drive back home after a long day at school. None of that stopped me. This is what I wanted, and I knew I was going to achieve it. It was going to happen. So I got in. I passed the entrance exam. I got in, and it was amazing. It was the first time that I was surrounded by so many other exceptional students. I was definitely challenged, and I loved it. It was all going great until the end of the first year of high school, when in May of 1992, the war broke out in Bosnia. So that was the end of my 9th grade, the beginning of war. Now, this isn't a story about the war or my experience, but I'll tell you just that it was horrible. It was as horrible as you can imagine it, and much, much worse. So I spent my summer hiding from the mortar shells and reading pretty much every Agatha Christie book that my local small library had on its shelves. When it was time to go back to 10th grade, it just wasn't possible. There was a shortage of everything, especially gas. There were no buses running between one city to another. It wasn't safe to go to classes, but it wasn't even possible when it was safe to actually get to the school and to go to classes. A lot of my friends transferred to a local high school because that was easier, but that wasn't what I was going to do. I was going to make this happen. So I studied at home. I made my own study plan, and I studied from books that I borrowed, that I copied from my professors, from other students. I guess you could say I was remote before remote was even an idea that anybody had. So I finished 10th and 11th grade by going to school for 1 week and taking comprehensive exams from about 12 to 14 different subjects every year, from everything that I had studied all, throughout the year on my own with my own study plan. It became a little bit more normal when it was time to go back for my senior year. It was safer and I could actually go back to classes pretty much every day. So that was great. It was nice to actually be back in school and to feel normal. I graduated in 1995, and soon after that year, the Dayton Peace Accords were signed, ending the war in Bosnia. So with the end of the war, also came the peacekeeping troops to Bosnia. By this time, I had enrolled in the local university in the same town where my high school was, again, having to drive an hour or having to take a bus an hour there and back every day. I enrolled to study economics. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it was right after the war. I didn't really have that many choices. I couldn't go to Sarajevo or Zagreb to study what I really wanted to study, which at the time was architecture. I did have a dream to be a movie director and win an Oscar and be like this giving an Oscar speech, but that was just a little kid's dreams. So as I was at the university, I heard from my fellow students that the American peacekeeping troops were looking for translators, interpreters, and all you had to do was know English. So I was like, I know English. I've been learning English since I was in 4th grade. Yeah, I've never really spoken to anybody in English outside of classroom, but I can understand everything they say in the movies. I even read 2 books that were only in English, so I can get this job, right? I can do this. So I go, I sign up and I apply. I go for an interview and I don't get it. They didn't take me. And I'm like in shock because this is the first time that I didn't succeed in something. I didn't let it stop me. I went back like a month and a half later and I signed up again. I went for another interview and this time I got a job. And it was amazing. It was my first job that I ever had. It was very interesting. I got to meet so many interesting people, Americans. It was the first time that I met anybody that was really not from Bosnia, that wasn't speaking my same language, that had completely different experiences from me. As part of my job, I was issued an army uniform. I had to wear combat boots and a flak vest and a helmet, which made me look like a mushroom because it was so huge on my head. But it was a really great job because I also was able to give back to my country. I worked mostly with civil affairs, and they really helped displaced people, refugees in the country, and I was able to give back a little bit. The country was devastated by the war. So many dead and wounded, so many people who have lost absolutely everything. The economy was in shambles. The unemployment was extremely, extremely high. And I knew that even when I finished my university degree, getting a job that I wanted to get would be extremely difficult. And not even to think about the career that I wanted to have or the life that I wanted to have. That was simply like not even a possibility, not even an option given the circumstances. So as I was working with the American soldiers, I started to learn more from them about what the life is really here in the United States. What does college look like in the United States? And the idea started to form in my head about going to college in America. Now, this wasn't something that people were doing. It wasn't something that you would just like pack up and go to America and go to college. It was actually quite challenging to do it because I had to be accepted to college, right? I had to get a visa. That wasn't easy. I had to be able to afford it. So just for a college to even consider my application, I had to take a test of English as a foreign language. Now, the closest place where I could take this test was in Budapest, in Hungary. And that's probably about 10 hours bus drive away from where I lived. They also speak a completely different language. I've never been that far away by myself. So like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, this is something that I want to do. So I'm going to go to Budapest. I'm going to go take this test. And I did. I went to Budapest, really no idea where I need to go. I had an address on a piece of paper that I gave to the cab driver who took me to the testing site. I took the test. I passed the test, which was amazing. I also had to travel to Zagreb in Croatia several times. That's another 5 to 6 hours bus drive away to apply for my student visa, to go for interviews, and then finally to pick up the visa, which I was thrilled that I actually, none of this other stuff even mattered if I couldn't get the student visa to actually come to the country. So I did all of that, and I had everything ready to come to the United States. But I also had a great group of people who helped make this dream a reality. I didn't do any of this on my own. When I came to the United States, I had a family who took me in as one of their own after I had left everything that I had known in my life behind me. So it's around Christmas time. I take another bus trip to Zagreb, and then I stay in a hotel. The next day, I go to the airport and go on the plane for the first time in my life by myself. My family is staying home. I'm making this trip by myself. It's something that I wanted. So, at the time, looking back on it now, I think that was crazy, like completely crazy that I did this. But there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to make it at the time when I was doing it, because this was a goal that I have set for myself, and it was going to happen. I was going to make it happen. So I go on a plane to Vienna, from Vienna to New York City, and I finally make it to Oklahoma City on December 27th, 1997. I'm here. I came to America. I made it, right? This is fantastic. This is like what I have wanted for the last 2 years to do. Now, the night before my first class at college, I'm a nervous wreck. I have like all of these things going through my head. What is this even going to look like? What if nobody understands me? What if I really can't speak English? What if I can't do any of this? And then I think, but this is what you wanted, right? There's no turning back. You're here. You made it this far. You can't turn back now. It's going to be easy peasy. You got this. So I go to classes, and I did have it. I aced all of them. And even during my last couple of years, I was able to tutor other students, which was really great to be able to give back and to tutor others and to help them. I really like going to college in the United States. It was so different than my experience of going to college back in Bosnia. I found it to be so much more student-centric than I have ever experienced. The professors all had office hours. They gave me their phone numbers. I could go and ask them for questions. Everybody was eager to help, not just the professor, but the staff, the other students. Everybody was really eager to help. While back in Bosnia, my professors couldn't even bother to remember my name, let alone to help me if I had a question. So it was really just amazing to have that type of a support system right there in school to help me succeed with the classes, to help me figure out which classes I needed to take to get my degree, because I didn't know my first 2 semesters how to select them on my own. So really great guidance counselors who helped me. I studied business administration with a minor in computer science. And I really enjoyed taking all those classes, but I also enjoyed taking the electives like Spanish or American government. It was a very good experience. So in 2000, my now husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, he comes to the United States as a refugee, and he comes here to Utica. So that's my connection. That's how I ended up here. I came to visit him that summer of 2000, and it was after 2.5 years of not seeing each other for the first time. And then I would come and visit him every winter and summer break until I finished college. The summer before my last year of undergrad studies, through a friend of a friend who knew a friend, I got a chance to interview for an internship. There was a small let's say, a startup company with only a few employees called Knowledge Intersect. And they were looking for an intern, somebody who knew databases, who knew programming. And I was like, yeah, I know this stuff. I took all of those computer science classes. I can probably do that. So I go for an interview and I make an impression. I get the internship and I stay there for the summer. I show them my skills. I show them what I can do, but not only what I can do, but how much I am willing to learn and how much I want to learn. So before I go back to Oklahoma to finish my last year of undergraduate studies, I have a job offer. I have an offer for a job waiting for me when I finish school to come back here to Utica. Now, how many people can say that they have a job waiting for them a year before graduate? Not very many. I was ecstatic completely, especially as an international student, because my next step really to be able to work and to stay was I had to get a work visa. Now, getting a work visa is an experience that I would not recommend for anybody to ever have to go through. And I hope that none of you ever will, and that you will never have to do any dealings with immigration services because it's horrible. I'm here now in Utica. We're in the office. I'm standing next to the fax machine. This was like 2003. People were still using fax machines then. And there is a letter from the immigration services coming through the fax machine with all the requirements that are needed for this work visa. So I'm taking a page after page. I'm looking at it, and I am just completely defeated. First time in my life that I feel like there is no way, like this will never happen. And I say out loud, no way. And my boss is standing next to me. He's waiting for me to hand him these papers. He takes them from my hands and he looks them over and he goes, Jasminka, why are you saying no way? I'm like, because like, do you see this? Do you see what they're asking for? There is no way I can give them all of this. And he's like, but we're gonna do this together. You don't have to give them this yourself. We're going to get through this together. And I realized that really, that's another support system. Nobody goes through it alone. You have to have people along the way that are helping you. And he helped me immensely. I can't even imagine getting that work visa or what my future might have looked like if I didn't get that work visa at the time. So after more than 5 pounds of papers that were supporting documents with the application and several months of waiting, not knowing what was going to happen, my work visa was approved. And I was able to stay legally in the country because I would never not stay legally in the country for another few years. In the meantime, while all of this was happening, my husband got his American citizenship and we decided to get married. I was never one of those girls that had their like a, perfect wedding planned out since they were 10 or 11. And I didn't really even know if I really wanted to get married ever. But what I did have, I had a picture of a perfect honeymoon. And that honeymoon was in Hawaii. So that's what we did. We decided to pack up and go to Hawaii, just the two of us, get married on this beautiful golden beach and spend our honeymoon in Hawaii. This was 2005. Now with him having the American citizenship and getting married, that was my path to getting a green card. What a green card meant to me was that I wasn't tied to the work visa and I could look for other job opportunities if I wanted to. Because with a work visa, I could only work for that one company and for a only very specific period of time. So my husband and I got together and we're thinking, okay, what are our future plans? What do we want? He has at this time completed his or was working on completing his undergraduate degree right here at SUNY. He got his degree in computer science. And we were thinking like, what's next for both of us? He's looking at the graduate studies. I have been out of the school for a couple of years now. I always did want to get a master's degree. And I had to make a decision, what am I gonna get a master's degree in? Which path do I follow? I'm working in computer science, right? I'm working as a software developer. So do I get a master's degree in computer science? Because that's what he's going to go for. He got an undergraduate degree in computer science. He's going to continue in that field. Do I pursue my career in the same field? And we discuss it, and I tell him, I don't want to do coding forever. I don't want to write code. I don't want to debug. What I would really like to do is I would like to be part of a decision-making group, of a management team that's, helping others do things, but somebody who has a vision, because I'm full of ideas. I have an idea for everything. There was that ad that says there's an app for that. Well, there is an idea for that right here. There's always an idea. So yeah, I think about what my career might look like in computer science. And this is now, almost 20 years ago. Even then, much worse than now, it wasn't easy for a woman in that field. So I decide I don't want to fight those battles. It's, I don't really shy away from challenges, but this was one that I felt I didn't really have to fight this one. So I look at other options. There's an MBA, kind of like a natural progression for somebody who has a degree in business administration, but I thought, it might be difficult even with an MBA to get a job immediately in management without really having any experience, and with my only experience being in software development. So as I was looking through the catalog, I saw that SUNY was offering a master's degree in accountancy. I was like, hey, I took 2 accounting classes as part of my business degree. I kind of liked them. They were okay. Maybe this is something for me. So I think more about it, and I'm like, yeah, I could do this. But that degree in accountancy, that wasn't the goal. That was the path to the goal. My goal was to be a CFO. So to be a CFO, I needed to be a CPA. To be a CPA, I had to finish not only the graduate degree in accountancy, but also take pretty much all the undergrad classes in accountancy, because to qualify for a CPA exam, there are very specific educational requirements. I think something like 150 hours and a specific number of hours from the accounting. So I had to take all the undergrad classes, and I guess you could technically say that I have another undergrad degree in accounting and a master's degree in accountancy as well. So I start taking those classes, and we decide together that my husband is going to pause his studies because we couldn't afford for both of us to do this at the same time. He was just going to finish his undergrad and then take a little break. He was going to support me, and then when I was done, I was going to support him. So I have my first son on December 27th, 2007, exactly 10 years after I came to the United States. When I realized that, it was kind of like, wow, this is interesting, interesting coincidence. I'm finishing my last semester here at SUNY, taking a full load of classes, working part-time and then full-time during my first months of my first child. So yeah, it was challenging. It was really not easy doing all of that at the same time. It was the first time that I got an A- in a class, and it ruined my perfect 4.0 GPA down to 3.98. Am I still upset about it? Yeah, a little bit I am, I really am. But it's okay. I was a lot more upset about it than I am now. Maybe eventually I'll completely not be upset about it. So I graduated in May of 2008, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna start looking for some jobs in accounting now. But that was, yeah, not simple as I thought it was going to be, because I didn't have any accounting experience. And when I looked at all the job ads, you gotta have accounting experience. So I applied to one company, they never called me back. At that time they told you, oh, you gotta follow up with a phone call and you gotta call them to see if they got your resume. So, I do that reluctantly. I called them, got some, I don't know, crazy response. I was like, okay, probably fall for the better that they never called me back. I have an interview at a local business. It was a complete mismatch. It wasn't right for me, it wasn't right for them. And then I applied to this very small CPA firm that was actually kind of like across the street from where I was working, even still working at that time as a software developer. So they called me for an interview. I go there and I get this job with no accounting experience other than doing my own taxes using TurboTax. So later they tell me that they were very impressed by me and that I was the most confident candidate that they have ever interviewed, and that they were so surprised that I was not intimidated by any of them. And I still chuckle when I think about that, because I was prepared. I was very prepared for that interview, and being prepared is what makes me confident. I prepared for this speech. You don't even know how long. And that's the only way that I'm able actually even to give it to you today. So I get a job, but going into the interview, I also knew that even though I didn't have any accounting experience, I had some special skills that are very transferable to accounting. So my analytical skills, my database knowledge, everything that I have learned during the 5 years working as a software developer, there was so much that could be transferred to auditing, to analyzing financial statements. So I put all of this in my responses. I put it in my cover letter, and they're impressed by me. They give me the job. So I'm working at a small CPA firm, and many years later, I realized how lucky I was really to get a job at a small firm, because I was exposed to everything. All of us did everything. What I have heard from my colleagues later that work for larger firms is that you get either sent to the auditing department or the tax department, and that you specialized. And even within those, there is even more specialization. So if you're a tax department, you could end up only doing maybe partnership tax returns or nonprofit tax returns. And you really don't get exposure to this huge, giant world of accounting that is out there. And I got that at this small CPA firm. It was only 20 to 25 people firm. And like I said, all of us did everything. It really gave me so much knowledge for my next step, getting there to be a CFO. This was, again, not a goal. It was a step. It was one part of the path that's going to take me to being a CFO. About after maybe a year of being at a CPA firm, I started thinking it's time to start working on my CPA license. So CPA exam, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is an extremely hard exam. If you've known anybody who had taken the bar exam, I would say like, it's nothing compared to the CPA exam. Don't come at me in the comments or anything. But it's a 4-part exam that all the 4 parts have to be taken, and you have to pass them within an 18-month period. So if you start taking it and maybe you pass 3, but your 18-month period expires, you lose the first one. So you have to cram all of them within these 18 months. I have never studied so hard in my life. I would say if I combined all my studying in my undergraduate and my graduate years, so that's probably 7 years all combined, I have probably studied twice as hard just to pass these CPA exams. It was a lot of sacrifice from my family for me to be able to do this. My typical day at the time looked like this. Wake up in the morning, get my son ready for daycare. He was about 2 years old at this time. Take him to daycare, which was only a half-day daycare. Go to work, be at work until lunch, take my lunch break to pick him up from daycare, take him to the babysitter, come back to the office, eat at my desk because I don't have any more lunch. I have used up my lunch to take him to the babysitters. Pick him up around 5:30, go home, spend about an hour with him. My husband's gonna put him to bed. I'm gonna spend an hour or 2 studying every night, every weekend. So this is like over a year of our lives is like this. Again, that support system, you gotta have the support system. There is no way that I would have been able to do this on my own. There's no way I would have been able to do this if my husband didn't say, I'm going to pick up the slack so that you can do this, because this is not only important for your future, this is important for all of our futures. I get my CPA license in 2011. I passed all 4 exams on the first try. Really good grades on them, and I was really proud of it. I still describe it as one of my greatest accomplishments because it was so difficult. It was so challenging, and it really took a lot of sacrifice to get there. I'm still working at a CPA firm. In 2012, I have my second child, another boy, beautiful baby boy. And it's getting more and more difficult every year to get to the tax season. So the tax season is from January 15 to April 15, and the expectation is that we would work around 60 hours a week. So I'm working late until 7 p.m. every evening. I'm working on Saturdays. And during those 3 months, really, my family hardly ever sees me. When I get home, I'm exhausted, just want to go to sleep. There's one day off, that's Sunday. You got to catch up with everything that you were not able to do during the week. It's getting really more and more difficult getting through it every year. You know, I'm missing out on my kids. I'm missing out on my family. So after my 7th tax season in 2015, I'm thinking like, okay, I don't know if I can take another one. This is really, really tough. What do I do? So I think about looking for other jobs. What type of jobs? Well, maybe a controller, maybe a CFO. Am I really ready for the CFO yet? I'm not sure. I'm not even really serious about looking for jobs. I don't even know that I had my resume updated in quite a while. So it's now like a December timeframe. Probably again around Christmas in December 2015, I get an email from LinkedIn. You know, one of those emails that you get like every day and you just delete them without even reading it. So that was one of those. For some reason, I opened this one and there was a job in there, a job posting for a controller for this company called New York State Technology Enterprise Corporation. I've never heard of this company. I Googled them. I see that they're located in Rome. I'm like, okay, Rome is not that far away. I mean, it would mean rearranging everything, how we do things, but it would be doable. So I updated my resume and I sent in my application on New Year's Eve, 2015. A week goes by. I don't hear anything from them. I kind of even forget that I even sent in this application because January 15 is coming right around the corner, and I'm thinking about preparing for another tax season. So about 7 days later, I get a phone call. I'm driving back home. I have picked up my son, my younger son, from the babysitters. I stay there a little bit to chat with his babysitter, and we're driving home. We're a little bit late, maybe like a minute away from home, and my phone rings. I'm thinking it's my husband calling to check in on us because we're late coming home. I don't even look at the caller ID. I pick it up. And it's a recruiter from this company doing their screening call. So here I am in my car on the speakerphone. I have my not even 2-year-old in the back seat, and I'm going like, so he wasn't say anything. Luckily he didn't. We make it home. I stay like for another 10 minutes in my car in the garage, finishing this interview. And whatever I said must have sounded really good because 2 days later, they called me to come for an interview for the job. I make a really good impression at this interview because they call me back again to do a presentation to their leadership team. So this is like the second stage of the interviewing process. They send me 1 year of their financials and they tell me, we'd like you to present our key performance indicators to us. Now I'm looking at this 1 year, I was like, I can't present your KPI for 1 year. That makes no sense. I have to have at least 3 to 5 years of data. Can you send me more? Nope, this is all you get. I'm like, okay, well, you're a not-for-profit company. I know where to find your financials. I've learned that in my CPA firm. So I go out on the web, I find their financials, and I spend several days working on this presentation, you know, analyzing their financials, pulling in the numbers in Excel, doing the charts, doing the PowerPoint, practicing, doing a dry run at home with my husband. And I go there and I blow them away. This is what the CEO later tells me, that it was such a fantastic presentation, that he really enjoyed it. He loved the insight that I was able to provide. but it was that preparation. It wasn't just like blindly going into an interview and hoping that, you know, the job is going to fall from the sky. I prepared. I worked really hard to prepare for this job, to be ready for this interview, to anticipate their questions, and to know the responses, even to the questions that I couldn't anticipate. So I started at NYSTEC, New York State Technology Enterprise Corporation, 6 years ago, February 8, 2016. I've been there ever since. It has been an amazing, amazing 6 years. I got to do so many different things, to learn so much that I didn't even think it was possible to learn about business. But what I really had at NYSTEC was a great mentor. So this was the first time that I really had another woman mentor. At the CPA firm, we kind of had like an informal mentorship program. The 4 partners were all male. And although they definitely did help me and help me learn and advance at the CPA firm, it was the first time where I had a manager who was a woman and who was willing to be my mentor. Michelle Salisbury is her name, and she's absolutely amazing. She provided all of these opportunities for me that I didn't think would be possible. I guess I make my mark at NYSTEC because a year and a half ago, I was promoted to Director of Finance and Budget. And in this new role, I was able to create a new team. So I had my finance team that was reporting to me as a controller, but now as a director, I was able to convince my CEO that we needed a little separate team called Data Analytics and Reporting that's also reporting to me. So I'm going a little bit back to my roots of software development and programming and SQL, working with my other team. And now I have 2 managers reporting to me. And it's amazing to see them develop. It's probably the most rewarding right now for me to be able to give back and to be able to be a mentor to somebody like Michelle was and still is to me. And to see my team grow and realize their potential while I'm helping them get there. So that has been really amazing. And I hope to stay at NYSTEC for a long time because I love the place. I love what I do. My days are never the same. And that's probably the best part, that I still keep learning every day and that there is so much to learn. So I'm gonna leave you with some lessons, 4 lessons that I have learned along the way. The first one is be brave. Audaces fortuna iuvat. Fortune favors the brave. Latin saying that I learned when I was 14 in 9th grade when I started learning Latin. And it really made an impression on me. You gotta be brave. And good things will happen to you. At least that has been my experience. You gotta be brave to take those opportunities, not to look at challenges as challenges, but to look at them as opportunities. There will always be naysayers, those who tell you, you can't do this, you can't succeed. Don't listen to them. Be kind to them, but don't listen to them. Be brave. The next one is ask questions. There's so much that each one of us doesn't know. And you gotta ask questions along the way. Nobody's ever gonna tell you, oh, you're asking too many questions. But they'll often tell you, why didn't you ask if you didn't know? If you're not sure, why didn't you just ask me this question? As part of the interview process for an accountant on my team, I have developed 2 exercises. One is a bank reconciliation, and one is a specific calculation that I give you all the details for. Each one of those has a piece missing. So for the bank reconciliation, if you know what you're doing, you can kind of figure it out, what's missing and what needs to be there. But for the other one, you first have to realize that you're missing a piece of information, and then you have to come to me and ask me for that piece of information. So I'm not only testing you to see if you can solve this problem, can you do this bank rec, can you subtract and add numbers? I want to see how are you solving problems? Are you going to realize your missing pieces, and what is your action going to be? Are you going to come to me and ask me questions? I definitely tell the candidates before I give them these exercises, I'm going to be right here. You take about 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to be right here. If you have any questions, any whatsoever, come and ask me. You're going to be surprised how many of them don't come to ask me questions. They go and they finish those exercises and they're not correct. And they didn't come and ask questions. Lesson number 3 is, what is my lesson number 3? Let me find my page. Lesson number 3, no one matters to you. Know your goals. If you aim for nothing, you will always achieve nothing. And number 4, nobody does it alone. You have to have a support system. And I have had amazing support systems throughout my life. And I know that I wouldn't be here where I am without those. So with that, thank you so much for listening to my story.